Turn down stolen hours. Hotels don't sleep. They trade secrets in ice machines. After the last table in the bar agrees to be last and the lobby remembers it used to be a room, the building lowers its voice to a hum that teeth can hear. Elevator cables breathe. The espresso grinder cools like a cat that forgives but won't forget. A vacuum whines in a hallway no guest will own, then snaps off mid-sentence as if someone finally listened. If you've never stood at a night manager's console at 2:11 a.m. and watched a whole address hold its breath on your screen, you don't know how a building can ask for honesty without moving a single hinge. I'm Nathan, Nate on badges, night manager of the Hotel Laurel, 68 rooms and the kind of lobby that photographs like it invented dusk. My desk curve hugs a monitor with more tabs than a sin, a phone with more blinking lines than friends, a key fob that wakes doors, and a ring-bound shift log swollen with other people's mistakes. Under the counter, a tin that used to hold chamomile and now keeps lost earrings as quietly as a priest, a blacklight wand I pretend is only for bedspreads, a roll of blue painter's tape that solves more problems than therapy, and a notebook where I write down which guests name their lies. Nora, my wife then, could make a room rehearse better manners just by standing in it. Brand architect, event whisperer, she staged product launches that taught cameras to behave. We met in our own lobby when Laurel let her borrow our mezzanine for a press dinner that made our chandeliers blush. She liked that I could settle a stag party with a glance and a free round of fries. I liked that she could uncrumple a linen with 2 fingers and a word like there. We kept Wednesdays because the week will eat you if you don't mark off a mouthful and call it yours. She'd tap the staff entrance glass with 2 knuckles at 11:03. The guard would pretend we were strangers, and I'd have the back-of-house corridor lit like confession. If this sounds like bragging, I'm only building the room. There's a notch in my lower back from the corner of the bell desk where she once pushed me, and I knocked a stack of city maps onto the marble. There is a comma of a birthmark under her left collarbone I could find with my mouth in the dark. There is a way she would say, "We have 10," and I would take 9 and tuck 1 under my tongue in case famine visited. The first wrongness arrived as minutes that preferred each other. 00:17 service door north, held open 6s. Doors tattle when held, it's how they keep faith. 00:21 camera 8, brief loss. Camera 8 watches the service elevator. It forgot to watch for 18 seconds and came back wide-eyed, innocent. A housekeeping cart, my favorite one, the one with the quietest casters, reappeared with 2 splits of Ricet gone from the bottom shelf and no corresponding note for clean stems. The minibar ledger said 514 drank 2 ginger ales at 00:39, but the guest in 514 swore he was asleep. The walk-in closet in 514 smelled faintly of mint when it should have been all cedar and doubt. On the rim of a water glass by the ice machine on 5, a mouth dried itself the color of late plums and a little to the left of where my wife's would have landed. I wrote a generous story. A dishwasher took his break near cool. A housekeeper got thirsty and honest in the same minute and forgot she knew the difference. The camera sneezed, the building stretched. Then the next Thursday the minutes repeated as if this hotel believed in liturgy. 00:17 held its breath for 7. 00:21 coughed. Under the baseboard near the service elevator, my headlamp found a tiny clear loop. Not an earring back, not something a guest would notice missing. A silicone hair tie, engineered to be forgotten. Nora said open the way architects say load-bearing. We were folding towels in halves, which I accept the way some men accept democracy while longing for thirds. She leaned a hip against the counter like a sailor trusts the boat and not the sea. With rules, she said. With care, with us first. She did not touch me while she said it. That's our house dialect for truth. I wanted to be as big as the laurel when it forgives a busload of strangers for arriving late. We wrote it down. No one from the hotel. No clients, no press. Tell me before, not after. Protection always. Our bed, sovereign territory. The first week she kissed me like a ceasefire. The second like an apology the language hadn't invented yet. The third, at 11:09, she texted client tasting ran long. Don't wait up, and the service door at 00:17 made its little sermon again. I don't set traps in sanctuaries. I tune rooms. I dusted the inside plate of the North Service handle with a breath of talc from housekeeping, just enough to bloom under the wand and kiss a careless palm. I rotated the Do Not Disturb tassel on 514 to sit wrong by half a degree. A hurried hand would correct it without knowing it had confessed. I set the minibars 4 tiny bottles in an irrational order only my bones would remember. Gin where vodka belongs, vodka where bourbon sulks, bourbon showing its shoulder like a flirt. I laid a dark hair across the threshold to the service elevator, not to snare, only to teach a stride it had been noticed. 00:17 held sevens, 00:21 blink. The talc translated into a pale constellation on the steel. The tassel hung true in the morning. The minibar's tiny vices had righted themselves. On the elevator threshold, the hair lay coiled politely to the side, moved by hands that understand traps even if they don't understand mercy. She came into my lobby with fast hair and an earned mouth. I lifted the blacklight wand, and a faint dust galaxy woke along her wrist where pulse negotiates. She glanced down, then up, arithmetic done. Don't make me the villain, she said, not pleading, just tired. I asked for before, I said. I thought I did, she said, and in her grammar client tasting counted. She had kept tempo. I had wanted melody. He followed her with a jacket over his shoulder and the confidence of a man who believes he's been hired by the mirror. Sela's heart, hotel photographer turned soft-focused deity for people who like to be seen liking things. He'd shot 2 of her events. He wore linen like a good lie. He looked at the chandelier from below as if asking it to sign an NDA. We'll go, he told the lobby, respectful as a cat. We won't perform in here, I said, and I held the service door because the laurel is a sanctuary even when I have to practice not owning it. The alley smelled like wet cardboard and groceries. The lock clicked back like a page ending on the right line. We separated with competence. She took the cart and the flutes and the blazer that made rooms behave. I kept the chipped mug with our old laurel wreath logo and the habit of speaking softly to doors. Lawyers moved nouns between us like luggage, and we signed where signatures go when they're tired. We were not tragic. That's its own kind of grief. Work picked me up by the collar and made me useful. A pipe in the ceiling over 3 burst, and the building cried into a bucket until the plumber apologized to it. The espresso machine learned to sulk in a new accent, and I learned to soothe it. A wedding party decided the bridal suite was a democracy, and I staged a coup with extra towels and a lie about noise complaints from a non-existent ambassador on 6. I slept afternoons with starch in my hair, and woke knowing which guest would ask for a later checkout, just by the way the elevator ding sounded on their floor. Inez came to the laurel in the kind of blue housekeeping keeps for women who make linen behave. Laundry supervisor, seamstress of emergencies, she carried a crate of folded duvet covers like she was walking a small boat. Orange oil and steam lived on her skin the way perfume performs on others. She tied her hair in a knot that looked like competence. "Which room is bleeding?" she asked. eyes taking inventory of a hallway that had no right to be that honest. 514's curtains pretended a guest was taller than he is, I said. She snorted. Curtains lie to make men feel important. Then she laughed, quiet for the room and loud enough for me. We began in verbs that don't draw blood. She taught me how to fold a fitted sheet until it forgave its secrets. I taught her which guests would stain a towel with red wine and call it makeup. She left a napkin folded like a crane on my desk when I survived a bachelorette check-in. I cut her a key to the staff pantry for the good snacks without telling anyone why I was smiling. Somewhere between the second funeral rate and a surprise dog, Inez started leaving orange peels on the edge of my console, and I kept one in my pocket until the building smelled like patience. The first time she touched me, it was my wrist, a degree of correction, so I wouldn't smear a fingerprint on a glass the blacklight would later judge. There, she murmured, and my body remembered it belonged to someone again. We aren't children. Speed is what fear wears when it wants to be right. The first time she kissed me, we stood in the doorway of the linen room because doorways tell the truth. Half in the rest of the world put on mute by clean cotton. Her mouth tasted of orange and the warmth at the back of the tongue that should be reserved for courage and love. She kept her eyes open for a beat, not to check for cameras. There are none where the ghosts of sheets live, but to choose me twice. My palm learned the small of her back where exhaustion thinks it can sleep without asking permission. She made a sound I slipped into my pocket for famine. We counted to 10 and used 9. The last minute belongs to the building. We made rules that sounded like respect, not fences. No mouths in guest spaces. No hands near linens that will have to forgive strangers. Yes to the stairwell on 2 with the green exit sign that pretends to be faith. Yes to the laundry office after last cycle, when the industrial washers hum like a monastery, and the lights turn most people into silhouettes and us into a reason. Yes to my desk with the house lights down, our knees touching under a schedule of deliveries that somehow learned to be tender. I wish I could tell you I went to war, that I pulled video, built a story that could punish, and turned a lobby into a courtroom. The version with applause ends with a building that never trusts me again. I walked 2 bodies out of a door and kept a sanctuary from being humiliated. I chose a smaller verb and a longer grace. The Laurels fundraiser returned because donors like to remind themselves they own winter. Thread and tongue, this one, because puns perform well in ballrooms. Nora came in a dress that taught reflections modesty. Sela's drifted in her wake like a rumor that believes itself. We nodded the nod exes learn when they choose to continue being people. Inez wore black because glue hides in it. She crossed behind them with a tray of impossible napkin roses and a smile she had negotiated with in a breakroom mirror that didn't argue. "You okay?" she asked later in the back hallway where the flower buckets wait to become expensive. "I'm practicing," I said. "For what?" "For being a guest," I said, and my own mouth surprised me with the answer it picked. After speeches, I did rounds the way men like me always do. Service door, obedient. Camera 8, faithful. 514's tassel, wrong in the way only I would notice because I made it wrong. A private joke with a building that had decided to trust me again. In the lost and found tin, 2 clear hair ties and a bobby pin bent into a question mark lay among boarding passes and a cufflink that had given up. Not trophies. Grammar marks around a chapter I didn't need to perform twice. I snapped the lid softly and the tin clicked like punctuation. Not a period. Not yet. A semicolon, 2 clauses joined by a breath I could finally afford. In the laundry office at 3:08, Inez leaned against a washing machine that was trying not to fall asleep. Flour from pastry clung to the edge of her sleeve. She had helped plate petits fours for a table that thought sugar is a kind of apology. I put my hand on the warm steel right next to her hip because I wanted the machine to tell me how to behave. She set 2 fingers in my belt loop and said stay, without summoning any syllable but mine. We kept our hands off the pressed sheets, the way believers keep their palms out of holy water for fear they'll drink. There's a cat in our alley that thinks it owns the trash schedule, and to be honest, isn't wrong. The night the service door chimed at 00, 17 out of sheer muscle memory, the camera showed only the cat walking by with a leaf in its mouth like a formal invitation. I laughed into my sleeve and Inez laughed with me, her laugh living in the place under her tongue where good mistakes sleep. If you drop by the Laurel at the wrong hour, you might see a man in a cheap dark suit stand with his hand flat on a lobby desk as if he could teach it kindness. You might catch the smell of orange peel where no drink has been served. You might see a woman in housekeeping blues pause with a stack of towels, set her cheek to the top one for a second like a prayer, then smile into a private camera and get back to believing in her hands. You won't see the blacklight wand unless I want you to. You won't see the tin unless I'm practicing punctuation. I lock the North Service door and feel the little burr under my thumb where everyone's story has made the metal honest. I kill the lobby lamps in banks so the room can learn the dark gently. I listen for the elevator his snap that tells me it will stop where it's supposed to. Inez steals my last clean minute because she can. I let her because that rule outlived all the others. Tip the night. We walk the back corridor with our hands shoved into each other's pockets like we invented warmth. The city outside pretends to be asleep. The Laurel hums. The ice machine tells me what it knows and I promise not to ask it to say it louder. Hotels don't sleep, they remember. They forgive slowly, then all at once, when you stop making them host scenes they didn't audition for. We have 10. We use 9. The last minute belongs to linen and to a mouth that says now without raising its voice, and to a door that closes behind us with the satisfied click of a room that has decided to tell the truth again in the morning.